We began with Ivan Reitman. He's made a number of films. In fact, you certainly have seen Twins, and you certainly saw Dave, which gave him a certain kind of prominence. The new film is Junior. He is the director, and I am very pleased to have him here. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. Tell me about this movie and how it came to be for you, and then we'll get into this relationship you have with Schwarzenegger. I mean, you were twins, and Kindergarten Cop was the other.
Well, Arnold sent me the script. He said, you know, I've just read this. I think it's very funny. I get pregnant in it. I said, I'm not so sure that's such a good idea. It sort of made me a little queasy just to think about it. I read it. It was funny. Then I started thinking about it as perhaps a new way to do a romantic comedy. You know, a man and a woman are in love, but one of them is pregnant. It happens to be the man. And using that point of view helped a bit.
Yeah, and all the twists that you're able to play with it.
Yeah.
What reservations did you have about it? What made you think this is very tricky, this is risky?
Well, it's one of those movies that you can fall off a cliff with very easily.
Yeah, right. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. You know, I keep getting attracted to these very difficult premises. And Dave, you know, there's a man who looks just like another, who happens to be the President of the United States. And Ghostbusters, you know, you can catch ghosts. I mean, there are ghosts and you can catch them. And Twins, that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito happen to be twins as a result of a genetic experiment.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because actually it scares me. Because for example, in this film, in Junior, you know, there's the feeling that it will make men queasy. I mean, it made me uncomfortable just to think about this idea, and that perhaps it will portray women in a bad way or men in a bad way, which of course I don't think it does. I think it's very even-handed to each of the sexes, but those are the kind of things that frighten me about it first.
Tell me about the relationship you have with Arnold, because the story is, a part of the conventional lore is that he sort of came to you in Aspen and wanted to do more comedic roles, having established himself as an action star.
Well, as a comedy star, he was established as an action star. He hardly spoke in his films except for these terrible one-line comedy lines that I think no human actor could get across very well. And he came up to me and says, "You're the Ghostbuster guy?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, you know, I think I could be funny in a movie." And we went out to dinner. We had this wonderful conversation, and I suddenly realized, here's a guy who's very intelligent, he's very charming, and more than that, he's very verbal. You would never guess that about him. And so I started working with him a little bit. I met Danny DeVito about the same time, and somehow the two of them sort of got lodged in my brain at the same time. And I thought they would be wonderful together and the right kind of thing. Not only because they look so funny together. It's not really the physical joke, because that really wears off after about 30 seconds.
Right.
It's the way they complement each other's energies. You know, Schwarzenegger is like a classical film star. He's very reactive on the screen. His face tells us wonders without his doing very much. DeVito is proactive. You know, he's a ball of fire. He's full of energy. He's always going. And they work, those energies really complement each other, and they seem to be able to finish each other's lines in a wonderful way. And I just find that they're funny verbally together.
What about Emma Thompson?
Well, she was the wild card, so to speak. I met her on Dave. I spoke to her about perhaps playing the First Lady, and then I thought, well, that probably should go to an American. And well, I was just very seduced by her. She's such a talented person and a good person as well. I always wanted to work with her, so when this role came up, I called her up and I suggested it to her, and she thought for a moment, well, me and Schwarzenegger, what a good idea. I knew it was a long shot, but she could see that there's something in their physiology would be very effective. And in fact, the first time they met, the sparks just shot between them in a wonderful way.
How did it happen?
Well, we went to lunch. Actually, I was right between them. I could see these two heads facing each other, and good things were happening. After the lunch, she pulled me over privately and said, "See what was going on between us? We're going to be great." There was a lot of... She got it right away, and she thought it would be effective. The very first time they rehearsed together was in my office, and Emma tells Schwarzenegger, lie down on the floor. Arnold sort of looks at me like, is it okay? I said, I'm not sure where she's going with this. Yeah. So he lies down. She sort of leaps on him and just rolls around with him, feels his muscles, and says, there, okay, I'm comfortable right now. You know, she sort of wanted to get a sense of him, so because he is, the first time you meet him, he's sort of bigger than life. And there's something oddly superhuman or different about him. And I think by touching him, she got
bulk, yeah.
She got comfortable with him.
When you, let me take a look at a clip just to see them working together. This is a place where he's told that he looks radiant.
Oh, yes.
Because he is, in fact, pregnant. I mean, all the things that we say about pregnant women, we now find ourselves observing and saying and feeling about a pregnant man, which is part of what you have done here. I assume you had to make this as believable as possible for it to work.
Absolutely. And
you had to have the science, in a sense, at least lend credence to the possibility.
Right. The double thing was to get the science as close to the absolute truth as possible, and tonally to walk that careful line where you really sense the truth of it, that it wasn't too silly or too dumb.
All right. Here it is. Junior, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Emma Thompson in Czechoslovakia.
Yes.
Your mother, a survivor of Auschwitz?
Yeah.
Together?
With my father. And we escaped Czechoslovakia in 1950 in the bottom of a tugboat. I was drugged, apparently, and for the 3 or 4 day journey, we ended up in Austria for a while, then to France for 6 months, and then finally to Canada, is where I really grew up. Yeah, and where I became Americanized.
Yeah, well, but you said about Canadians an interesting thing, that Canadians are voyeurs, and that therefore, in the best sense of the word, they're constantly observing, and therefore there's a natural inclination to write or film or talk about observation.
Yes, also we Canadians, I think, have this extraordinary inferiority complex, living next to this giant to the south. And so as people who feel this way, I think we develop a sort of humorous approach to things as this kind of a safety net for ourselves.
What did you want to do? Do you want to produce movies, direct movies, what?
Well, I was putting on puppet shows for all the neighborhood kids and sort of backyard circuses, apparently when I was 3 or 4, none of which I can remember. But I do remember in Canada, when I was still in grade school, doing all this kind of stuff on the local street. So I think I always wanted to be in show business of some kind.
Animal House was the first big breakthrough?
First big film in America.
You produced it?
Yes, I produced it. I wanted to direct it. Up to then, I had only directed this small $12,000 horror comedy named Cannibal Girls, and it was pretty dreadful, although it had a couple of very funny moments in it. And I think Universal, even though I had worked on the Animal House script for a couple of years with Harold Ramis and Doug Kenny, was not prepared to let me handle sort of a big studio feature at that point.
Was Stripes the first film?
No, Meatballs, which I made in Canada,
right.
And then Stripes, then Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and Ghostbusters was the breakthrough.
I think Stripes probably, well, frankly, Meatballs was very successful as well, but Stripes was like the equivalent of a $150 million grosser today. It did almost $90 million then, and it didn't cost anything. And then came Ghostbusters, which was really, that put me in the top 10 class.
Yeah,
as they say.
And that's really contributed to this $2 billion figure that I used in the introduction. It's hard to make comedy. I mean, it's much harder than drama, isn't it?
It's harder than anything, I think.
And nobody can tell you how to be funny.
Well, what no one talks about is this element of confidence that has to go on between the viewer and the filmmakers. Drama's pretty straightforward. You tell the story in an intelligent way, and you're very careful with it. You're done. You have to do that in a comedy as well, but on top of that, you have to somehow move people enough to make them laugh, and that's a very, very tough emotion to get, and it really requires this ability to make. I was talking about confidence. One thing I've learned that right in the first 5 minutes of any of my films, I want to put my best foot forward, because I know that if I do something that the audience doesn't understand or doesn't respond to, it gets harder and harder with each passing moment, and you have to sort of work them back in.
Do you feel, I mean, I think that I can go to a movie and decide whether I'm going to be able to sit through it in the first 5 minutes. I mean, you can just see something about the way it's constructed, about the performance. Something happens to say,
it's a relationship
they know what they're
that
doing here.
You start to develop a relationship with the director.
With the storyteller.
With the storyteller. It's like a great storyteller. You know, a really fine storyteller gets you to relax, says, now kids, sit down. I'm
in control here, and this is a wonderful story.
Yeah, just relax
and
about all
over here's
your...
Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's playing this, and over here is Emma Thompson, she's playing this, and here is Danny DeVito, and here is this, you know. And
they sweep you off your feet, and now you can relax and go with it.
What did Dave do for you, other than make a lot of money, too?
Well, I think Dave was more subtle, perhaps, than the films that I had done before then. It sort of followed Kindergarten Cop in my list of films. I think it's this wonderful political story written by Gary Ross.
Right.
And I think it was the most serious thematically of the films that I've
Because people who write about you point to Dave and say somehow after that he was taken, even though he made all this money, he was taken and viewed in a different light. Do you know what they mean?
Well, I think that perhaps is the media
it's us,
viewpoint. It's you guys. No, it's just, it's because it was more serious. You didn't see it as a breakthrough? You didn't see it as anything special, just another film? No, I thought it was a good film. But I thought, for example, in a strange way, Ghostbusters was a tougher movie because the disparate elements that one had to put together in that were trickier. I mean, Dave, yes, it was more. It wasn't as broad as Ghostbusters or Stripes or some of the youthful movies that I had done. It was more careful, and I think it's why it was probably more appreciated.
Do you have somehow, I mean, a sense like a sense of awe about movies the same way that Spielberg does? And
well, I love them. I'm a fan. I go a lot, just with my family, and I love to talk about them. I don't think I'm the same. I didn't come into movies until I was about 7 or 8 years old. I don't think I saw a movie in Czechoslovakia, through the age of 5. The first film I saw was the Errol Flynn Robin Hood from the late 30s, which I saw in 1952 or 53.
Would you make a drama?
Well, I would certainly tell a very dramatic story, but the way I would probably end up telling it would have a great deal of comedy in it. It's my particular approach to life.
Can you spot someone? I mean, you could have told whether. I mean, Emma Thompson brought what to your film in terms of comedy?
Well, she plays this very intelligent character who's also very physical. Very tough combination to pull off. Physical comedy is one of the great lost arts of filmmaking, and so often it's done in the sort of dumbest way. So I wanted to take a character who was brilliant. I mean,
an Academy Award-winning performer.
Well, not just brilliant.
You mean Dr. Reitman?
Redden, yes.
Right, Redden.
So you got both, because all of us are like that. The smartest people in the world have these odd, idiosyncratic things about them. Sometimes it's not that they're physically handicapped, but it's just they do things. It's a way of sort of broadening a character.
Junior is the film. Ivan Reitman is the director. Interesting movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito and also Emma Thompson. Take a look at this scene, and when we come back, Emma Thompson will be here.